The one thing I realized I learned how to do and learned how to do well was read a room.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that when every change happened, instead of fearing it, knee-jerking, or remaining and reacting the way I did with the regime before, I sat back, I tried to figure out the new boss, the new culture. Were their interest in creativity and content, or were they bottom line financiers? Did they want to be communicated to all the time, or they just wanted a heads up when something was going on? And I realized by reading the room, reading the new boss, reading the culture and what their values were, and then responding to that was a way to keep going and keep standing.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to How She Does It, where high-achieving women share their stories of success and struggle, and we ask them how they do it. I'm Karen Finerman. You may have seen me on CNBC's Fast Money. I'm a long-term Wall Street investor, a mom of 4, and a diehard WNBA fan. My guest today is a powerhouse, a storyteller, and she knows a thing or two about women, money, and power. During Bonnie Hammer's decades-long tenure in the entertainment industry, she used her skills to create win after win after win. Her portfolio of cable channels included USA, Sci-Fi, Bravo, Oxygen, and E! She launched hit shows including Suits, Monk, Psych, Battlestar Galactica, and Mr. Robot. At its height, more than 100 million viewers per week would watch something on one of the networks she ran. She also was one of the architects behind evolving the WWE into a stunning show business success. Not surprisingly, she regularly ranked at or near the top of those most powerful women in Hollywood lists. After serving as vice chair of NBCUniversal since 2020, she recently stepped away from the company and is set to start her next very exciting adventure. Her New York Times best-selling book, 15 Lies Women Are Told at Work and the Truth We Need to Succeed, is now available in paperback. We chatted about why she is not a fan of the advice, fake it till you make it, how Barry Diller influenced the way she approaches work, and what she's cooking up for the next phase of her career. Check out our conversation. It's a good one. Bonnie Hammer, thank you so much for being here.
It is my pleasure.
All right, I have a lot to get to. You've been on a whirlwind for 30 plus years.
You're being generous there.
40 plus years. Okay. So have you had a moment to look back at your time at NBC Universal and other places and appreciate everything that you've accomplished?
The truth is, I think I've had more than a moment, and I have for quite a while now looked back and realized I was really lucky, and I've had an incredible ride, that now things are so much more complicated, that I just love the fact that I was able to ride the cable rise, TV content before everything got so murky and so muddy, that it was such a fun trip. And I'm not convinced that those who are starting out now will be able to have the same fluidity of making rules, breaking rules, making up new rules, and starting again. So I feel very, very fortunate, but also because technically July 1st was my first day of not having a corporate umbrella in close to 50 years. So I feel very, very lucky for what I had, but I also realize just how protected I was from so many things, whether it be technology, IT available to cut your little hangnail if you needed them, to just having almost anything and everything at your fingertips and now having to do it all by yourself.
Okay, so I get that you feel lucky, but you don't survive that many changes, that many mergers, that many tectonic shifts in the business over that period without some amount of skill. How are you always able to figure out what was needed at that moment?
I think that's cumulative, and I think it changed with each decade and with each change. In hindsight, the one thing I realized I learned how to do and learned how to do well was read a room. So that when every change happened, instead of fearing it, knee-jerking, or remaining and reacting the way I did with the regime before, I sat back. I tried to figure out the new boss, the new culture. Were their interest in creativity and content, or were they bottom line financiers? Did they want to be communicated to all the time, or they just wanted a heads up when something was going on? And I realized by reading the room, reading the new boss, reading the culture and what their values were, and then responding to that was a way to keep going and keep standing, and then communicate that to my entire team. I wanted them to do exactly what they were doing before, but understand what to pick out when we reported up. If you think Jeff Zucker and Barry Diller were alike, hell no. And Comcast and GE, total opposites. So it was really understanding what I was getting into. But I don't think I understood that years ago. I think that came with time, but I didn't get it till I looked back and understood, what did I do that others didn't? And I think it came out of fear, not out of brilliance in any way, shape, or form. I think for me, it was sitting back and going, okay, don't be a moron. Sit back, watch, figure out what you have to do to succeed here. It didn't start out of confidence. It started out of the reality of change, and I'm not sure what to do.
You talked about, related to read the room, was don't be afraid to say what you don't know.
And that, I think, is one of the biggest issues, in particular for women. And I listed under my cliche of fake it till you make it. And my attitude is face it till you make it. That the minute you get caught in a lie, the minute you pretend you know something you don't know and you get caught, you lose trust instantly. And it's so hard to get back. The other thing people don't understand, when you admit what you don't know, when you say, oh yeah, I get that, I can do it, people can say, good, go, great, jump with it. If they don't trust, they're going to grill you and question you. Can you do it? Why can you do it? How can you do it? The other thing you do when you admit to somebody else that you don't know when you want to learn is you basically empower them. And you give them, in a sense, the ability to take you under their wing, and then they get invested in you. So there's so many reasons to own what you don't know, own what you do know, but never pretend. And I think so many women think they're going to fail, or they're going to look small or dumb if they don't pretend they know everything. And it only backfires. It becomes self-sabotage.
I've seen that, and I think it's so good and so important.
It's super
and also,
common.
When you say what you don't know, you're sort of leaving them with the implication, if she is confident with something, then she does know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But once you lie and BS and they find out you really don't know, you're not going to get that chance again.
What was the most pinch me moment that you had?
Oof. One of the things that has always stayed in my mind was something that Brian Roberts sent to me years after Comcast bought us from GE. And GE bought us basically from Barry Diller and Vivendi at the time. And I don't remember what the conversation was, but Brian sent me a note that Barry Diller had sent him when they bought the company, just saying, she worked for me, she's a keeper. Fire anyone else, she stays. And it was like, Barry did what? And this was before I was on Barry's board. This was just, I had worked for him for years. He scared the hell out of me. But it was like, okay, this is really interesting that he would go out of his way, send a note, support me, but never asked. That was kind of an awakening moment about how people who you work with, if they trust you and they buy into you, how they will support you for the rest of your career. If you treat them well, if you do well by them.
Okay, so I know Barry Diller offered you a job as head of Match.com.
He was testing me out to see if I would consider it. Yes. All right. So I worked for Barry mid-90s, I would say, mid to late 90s, till basically GE NBC bought us, meaning USA and Sci-Fi at the time. And it was tough. And I learned a lot. I have tremendous respect for this man. But he taught me how to think. And when it was over, all I could think about was I survived. I survived Barry Diller. I made it through. I'm still standing. I'm now working for NBCU and GE. And it was kind of a breath of fresh air, but it was, okay, I did that. And I'd already accepted the deal with NBC, and Barry calls me out of nowhere. And he said, I want to talk to you about something. Are you interested in taking over Match.com? And I kind of froze. And I literally said to him, Barry, I survived you once. Do you really think I would ever try that again? He burst out laughing and he said, well, you did pretty well by me, so excuse me. And I said, I just don't know about that. But it was, again, it was one of those refreshing moments and funny moments because I never thought I stood out. But I do look back at that opportunity and wonder, woulda, coulda, shoulda, perhaps. Would that have been one of the zigzags I personally should have taken? Even though I had signed a deal already with NBC, what would it have been like to change careers, to get out of direct media, to get digitally involved at that early stage in the game? This was 2004, 2005. What would my life be like? And also now realizing how people who worked for Barry, who shifted gears and who succeeded the next round, like Dara, who took over Expedia, they're multi-billionaires. I mean, these guys have made a fortune, but have experienced a different life, a different world, have become AI and digital geniuses in their own way. And I stayed in my lane. It's one of those conversations that I write about in the book about change, embracing change, not fearing change. Now, granted, I had changed. I had now taken over USA and Sci-Fi. There was a long runway for me at NBCU, but it was the same umbrella. It was still media. What would have happened if I really took a zag? And I don't know. And that's the one job offer, the one opportunity to this day is like, what if? What if?
What if? All right. So now you have a chance to write a new what if. What's interesting to you now?
This is the first time ever since I had my very first job where there's no corporate umbrella. There's no schedule, which is the hardest thing for me. When you are working 9 to 5 every day of your life, you know where you're going, what you're doing, who you're seeing, when you're leaving, what you're eating. I now have freedom for the first time in my life to sort it out. And my goal is to pay it forward, to take the experiences, what I've learned, the good, the bad, the great, the different, and pass it forward primarily to other women to help them navigate a world. So one of the ideas I have, and this is working with another friend, another female working in the industry, she coming from the digital side, and this is kind of informal structure so far, coming up with ideas, some good ideas, some grounded ideas, and some bonkers ideas, which are absolutely nuts, but they're just funny things that we've thought about that in some ways can help women. Some will be pro-social, others will be complete vanity, just across the board, and then figure out within an incubator structure, what should we move forward with? How do we move forward? How do we get investors? Or how do we make these things actually happen? So we are in that process right now of coming up with these ideas and figuring out where we want to go with this. Come September is the time to really launch some of these ideas. They are literally extremes, total extremes, from helping young women navigate the world to how to take your crazy investments in shoes and make them wearable when you spent ridiculous money on Prada shoes 10 years ago that you'll never wear again because they're 4-inch heels, that you actually don't want to spend the money again, but you like that shoe, but you want a small little wedge. How do you do that? And that's one of the ideas is how do you reinvent your shoe closet?
Okay. And these are ideas you guys came up with
Totally.
together and didn't solicit?
No. This is, just
Okay.
between the two of us
Uh-huh.
or a family member.
Uh-huh.
And I would offer some out, but I don't want them stolen yet.
Right.
So
I get that.
this
Okay.
one I think everybody's thought about, but no one has done it. The change your heels.
But I wonder, is the rest of the shoe made for a certain heel? I don't know. I don't know.
But there are ways
Maybe.
around that. We thought
Okay.
about it, Karen.
Good.
So you have a 4-inch heel,
Right?
and you want to put a wedge.
A wedge to make it.
All you do is
just
platform the
fill
front
in
of it.
Fill in the space.
That's right.
Okay. I am excited to see what's on Bonkers. There's a few things in your book that I really want to get to. You say you love chutzpah. Tell us what it is, the way you define it,
Okay.
and why you like it so much.
Well, chutzpah gets a bad rap because most people associate the word, which is a Yiddish term, for being really ballsy. But I think they're like cholesterol. They're 2 types of chutzpah, the good and the bad. So I've retitled it, if you will, from chutzpah to goodspah. And that's the good version of chutzpah, which is being bold, not brash, being confident, not arrogant, not being entitled, but going for what you want with a tone that makes sense and gets you what you want. And I'm a big believer, if you don't try for something, if you don't go after something, it's not going to be given to you, but it's the style in which you ask for it.
So in your book, you talk about getting the head of BU as a graduate program.
Yes.
After the deadline had passed, and you were going to convince the dean of the school to let you in.
When I look back on it, it probably goes back to my dad. My dad was a Russian immigrant. Nothing was ever given to him. And his basic line to me and to my brother growing up, there's no such word as can't. If you can't do it, you're simply not trying hard enough. And my dad was a very quiet but very gracious man and never felt entitled to anything in his life. He always worked really, really hard. To me, it was, okay, how do I get what I want? How do we get into a restaurant that's completely booked? And again, it's not demanding it. It's not saying, I'm important, let me in.
Yeah.
It's schmoozing. Maybe it's part of my culture, but it is talking in a way that make people want to give you something that might not be the easiest thing to do. And I think I've used that all my life with the college situation. I was just really honest. I said, I blew it. I was working at a job. I really didn't like what I was doing. I don't want to kill another year of my life. So I'll do anything if you let me apply late to this program. It's the exact program I want. I didn't know it existed. And I get it if it's just too late and you say no, but I really don't want to waste a year of my life. And I think the dean was so taken aback that somebody did that. He gave me a deadline. This was a Monday morning. And he said, if you can have everything to me by Friday at 4:00, recommendations, your essay, completed, whatever I needed to do, it will be considered. And I got in.
Right. And so one of the things you talk about in the book is this notion of your personal value and your value at work, which I really think is a great lesson. Tell us the distinction between those two.
You know, the cliche is for everybody, but in particular women and young people, know your worth, meaning be confident. Don't take anything that's beneath you. Don't ever take a salary that's lower than you want. The reality is, in my mind, excuse my French, but it's bullshit. When you're starting out in the work world, you have to prove your worth. You know, nobody knows your worth. Your personal worth is very important. Everybody has it. Nobody should give that up. But too many people conflate personal worth with professional worth. And it's like putting out your hand in New York and thinking you're going to find the temperature in New Delhi. They're totally different. You have to work at your professional worth for anybody to see it and for anybody to pay for it. So when I was in graduate school, I took an internship, and the internship was basically being a freelance photographer for a kid show for television. And when I say freelance, it was working for free and just getting credits for graduate school. And then what ended up happening, which was really incredible, a couple of production assistants were fired towards the end of the internship, and they asked me if I wanted a job. And I was so excited to have any job, no less TV, which I never thought about at that point. Photography was my passion. So I took the job figuring, okay, I'll be a production assistant. I'll finally be on a set. And I knew that each of the production assistants had a cast member that they were responsible for following, helping them with their lines, helping them with their wardrobe. I was the youngest production assistant. I was the newest. So I got a cast member, but the cast member was an untrained dog. It was the producer's dog that hadn't been trained and would poop all over the set. And it was a union set. So I had the job of cleaning up dog crap as my first job in television. But what I did was I did it with a smile. I didn't grunt at the grunt work. And trust me, it was crappy work, literally and figuratively. But it taught me that I'm on a set. I'm with directors. I'm with producers. I'm under the lights with cameras and all the stuff going on. Just do the job. Be noticed. Let them see you'll do anything with a smile. Mm-hmm. And that's how and I think many people in my generation grew up, that if you got a job and it could lead you somewhere, you didn't grunt at the grunt work. You smiled. You took advantage of it. You kept doing whatever was asked of you, even if it seemed menial. And if you did it and you did it well, you more often than not grew, got promoted, and that was really the beginning of my career.
Could you see the future from the dog do job you had?
No.
Where this was going to go? But it sounded like you were excited about TV. I
knew once I got on the set that something felt right. Mm-hmm. I didn't know by being smiley and nice and picking up dog crap that I'd end up a chair of a department. No. But I knew it was a path I was willing to follow. It was just a very different experience than being a lone photographer stuck in a dark room. It was an inclusive, collaborative group of people who got something done. And I think I loved the camaraderie. Mm-hmm. I think I loved the art of it. I think I loved the culture of it. So I knew there was something here, but I had no clue what that meant long term. So I took anything and everything and I just smiled and I took it on. Didn't mean I didn't complain or bitch at home.
Sure.
But on the set, I was a yes kid.
Okay. I know you believe ages 50 to 60 are an extremely pivotal moment for women. Tell us more about that.
I do. I've realized that the runway for women is that decade where they have enough exposure and experience in whatever they're doing. But it's those 10 years where they can navigate, make change, and truly succeed. You get past 60 in our world, and people look and view your runway as limited. So even if you have dreams, if you have passion, if you want to make change, do it in your 50s. Do it when you still have time to experience, to zig and zag, to change. Because the minute you hit 60 or early 60, and you try to do something new or fresh, unless it's totally independent, people are going to look at you and say, well, how long is she going to stay? How many years can she be in this position? So I'm a big believer in taking advantage of that decade when you have enough experience, you've worked your 30s, your 40s, to basically take your knowledge, figure out how you want to use it for that next decade. It's not to say that you can't work after you're 60 or even into your 70s. It does exist, but it's not a starting point. I have friends who are dealing with right now who are basically saying, I want to make change, or I want my contract renewed. And they're in their early 60s and having a really hard time. Mm-hmm. They're mostly because people don't believe there's a long enough runway to invest in them. They want to invest in younger. 50 to 60 is still very clean.
Did you know that at the time?
Absolutely not. I was a late starter when it came to really trying to re-envision what I wanted to do. And every time I thought I wanted to change, change happened to me. It was almost every decade there was another company who owned us, another boss. I think we went through 6 or 7 major corporate changes from, it was MCA and Paramount to Seagram's, from Seagram's to Diller, Diller to Vivendi, Vivendi to GE, GE to Comcast. And now Comcast obviously is dividing up.
Yeah.
So every time I was ready to make a move, the change happened to me. So I was able to zigzag and kind of navigate my way through the industry with change happening to me and thereby getting more put in my lap. So the comfort level of changing was probably too great to basically at the time, because if I was 60, which actually I know exactly when it happened because it was when Comcast bought NBCU from GE. At that time, at 60, everything vested. If you were 59, it did not. And I had friends and colleagues who did not get their total vesting. So for me, I was in a very comfortable place. Comcast was giving me the cable division, basically. So it was at a time that I felt, okay, I'm still getting more. But that would have been the point, kind of the last point of change where I could have really zigged or zagged outside if it were another corporate move. But I did not know. I was not aware. It's now when I look back and advise others.
All right. Well, since you brought it up, let's just talk about Versant for a minute, which will be the owner of
most of the cable group.
Most of the cable. And
except Bravo.
NBC. Just asking for a friend. How do you think this Versant company will look? How do you think it'll be positioned?
Well, my assumption is Lazarus and Anand Kinney will do a good job with whatever they are trying to do with it. I think the world has changed. My gut, and I have no inside knowledge whatsoever, I basically retired while all of this was happening and trying to help my former friends and colleagues navigate which way to go if they had a choice. I think as an independent entity, Mark Lazarus will have the ability and the freedom to figure out how to repackage cable. They're spinning it off for a reason, so the focus can be growing those entities or managing those entities independently so they can spend the money the way they believe they can grow what they want to grow, as opposed to contain them because the company wants some money to go to the other place. So I think there's as good a chance as not, if managed well, that they'll figure out what to do with the great content, the great, basically the faces on the air, off the air, to make it work.
I hope you're right.
So do I. I have a lot of friends there.
Okay. So you're a big fan of pay transparency, and that's evolved during your career.
Yeah.
Tell us more about why you think that's so important.
Well, I think we have been brought up that whatever your salary is, it's confidential. You know, you fight for yourself, you get what you want, or you're not getting what you want and you're embarrassed, whatever it is, that everybody holds that card very close to their chest. Once you get to a certain point, I'm a big believer in not necessarily believing that my salary has to be more than your salary. If we are, in a sense, equals, and I have great respect for what you do, and I know you're about to go negotiate for the same title I have. We have very similar backgrounds, but different lanes. I think it's important for especially for women right now, that women should help other women by being open about what they can make, what their packages may look like. You may not have to say every little detail that's involved, but you making the same amount of money that I'm making takes nothing out of my pocket. So why should I be upset, or why should I hold back information that could help another woman make more money or get to the C-suite? I'm a huge supporter of helping other women get where they need to go. I believe that financially, and I believe that the more women in C-suites, the better for all of us, male and female. So the one there was one time where I felt it was very important. Somebody I really liked and respected, very different world. I'm in television cable. She was in a whole other division of the company. She was about to go into negotiations. She was taking over a big piece of the company. She was really underpaid. And I wasn't quite sure what to do. And I finally said to my lawyer, who was the same lawyer that she was now using, I said, tell her everything. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, let her know what I'm making as a chair. Mm-hmm. She should know what the baseline is. Uh-huh. She might not get exactly the same thing, but let her know the target. Let her know about what she should get for what she's about to do. She's taking over a huge responsibility. She's ridiculously underpaid.
How'd you know she was underpaid?
Because we had talked in the past, just over the years when she was negotiating for the lesser jobs. And it just seems the inequity of it just made me crazy. And I also felt I was at a place in time, an age, everything about it was so unthreatening. And why does it matter to me if she makes what I make or even a hairpin more at this time? I'm doing really well. It's not going to hurt me at all. And it ain't coming out of my pocket. So help her.
Right.
And it made a ginormous difference in her negotiation because she had the information. Mm-hmm. If there's no one in your company that you're close enough with or friendly enough, you start talking to people outside. You have to put in the work to understand what at least the value should be. If it's a new company, in some ways it's easier coming in from the outside and negotiating for a new salary. When you're internal, it's much harder because of the increment they're going to let you grow. But do your homework, get the facts, and then when you go in, again, it's not that you're asking, it's how you're asking. Demanding, being entitled, yelling, being obnoxious, it's not going to get you there. And if you don't get what you want at first, can we review it another year rather than 3 years? What do I need to do in order to get from here to there? What else do I have to take on as extras to prove my worth? There are so many different ways you can get what you want by being positive, asking for the help if you don't get it at that moment. And if it's a really not great environment where you feel you're never going to get it, then you have to think about zigzagging and leaving.
What did you do with the first big amount of money that you made?
Oof. Actually, this is kind of fun, and it goes back to Barry Diller. With the first lump of money, which was the vested stock from having worked for Barry for many years, when he sold what was then USAI, he was pretty generous. One time I remember Barry at an end of an offsite, before he left and closed the door from the meeting, he goes, by the way, everybody's getting 18 shares of whatever today. You were all great. That was just a Barry thing. Mm-hmm. Some days you would get nothing, but it was out of nowhere it would come. So the first lump of money, my husband and I invested in renovating a 1930s stone colonial that we had been living in. We invested in the house, renovated the house totally. And then I remember sending photographs of the house to Barry. And the note was something like, this was a house that you built. I mean, your money renovated. Thank you, Barry. And he held that email and the photographs because people don't usually thank people for vested stock. That was my way of thanking him because I don't think we would have put that kind of money into renovation of a house. But it was extra dough I didn't expect.
All right. Well, you mentioned your husband. I want to get a little bit to, you're a mom and a stepmom. How did you run your life while you were running various cable channels? Yeah. How do you make it work?
I never thought it really worked to begin with. And I don't think anybody who is doing the juggling ever believes that it's really working 100%. For me, I always felt out of balance. When I was at work, I always felt super guilty about not being with the kids. When I was traveling, I always felt super guilty that I was traveling. When I was on vacation with the kids and the husband, I always felt super guilty that other people were picking up the slack back in the office. I think, especially for women, they have to realize that you will always feel like it's a balancing act. And for me, it was an act because I learned from the best. I would always put on a happy face on both sides, but it's hard. And it never really got easier. But it was when I realized that probably everybody I know is in the same position feels the same way. I kind of relaxed a little bit. And when I really relaxed is when I saw how the kids came out and how grounded, how thoughtful, how ambitious in their own way they were. And for my son, how much he actually respects women and working women, and his wife right now is a working woman that is his equal, that I realized the values we passed on because of how crazy my life was actually worked.
One thing I really wanted to know, how do you know what show is really going to be great?
If anybody tells you they have a clue to knowing what a success will be, they're out of their fracking minds.
I know Barry Diller says nobody knows anything, which I think is one of my favorite quotes.
It is very true.
There must be something you're looking for.
Well, you do have a sense about the script. You know, you read a script, it's either well-written or not, good characters or not. So many things about it will work, but it doesn't stop there. Then it's the casting. And then it's the director working with the different cast members and does the chemistry work with those members, etc. But what we did, I think, it didn't create successes. It limited failures. Mm-hmm. I would have everybody on my team, whether they were finance, HR, or worked in the studio group who would read the scripts, every single person before we would greenlight a script that we kind of knew we wanted, but not 100% sure. They would read it. We would have a meeting, and I would force everybody in their room to give an opinion. What they liked, what they didn't like, what worked. In the beginning, some of the less creatives, finance, HR, research, were afraid to speak a bit. But with time, I forced it out of them. And what it did was you really understood different layman positions on something that you may like, but you see it from a creative place. But they latched on to something else or disliked something else. And it would help you formulate the tweaks you would make to a more general audience. But the best thing it did, marketing people couldn't say, I hated the script. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you tell me? You had an opportunity. The press people could say, I knew that cast member wouldn't work. None of that could ever happen on our team because we all basically gave the green light together. Clearly, I had the way to say yay or nay, but those conversations involved and invested everybody on the team. So nobody could go, I told you so. Uh-huh. And I think we eliminated a lot of failures that way. We had some fabulous successes.
Yeah.
But
let's talk about Suits for a minute.
Yeah. Oh my. Oh my.
Did you know? You say you can't ever know. I understand, but
you can't ever know. And I'll tell you this one in particular, you hit one that hit such an incredible high thanks to Netflix after the fact. Mm-hmm. But it was the number one show on USA for a long time. However, when that script first came to us, we said no. There were too many shows about the law world. LA Law had been on. There were 3 or 4 different iterations of law shows that were on the air. And we just said, we can't do another legal show. So poor guy, we sent Aaron and said, do Wall Street, do something else. We can't do a legal show. Took him another 9 months. He wrote a show about Wall Street, very similar characters, but in the Wall Street environment. We all read it and went, oh my God, nobody gives a crap about Wall Street. This is awful. Let's rethink the law show. By that time, LA Law was gone. Mm-hmm. Other shows were off the air. And it was like getting to a moment that was fresh again. And we said, we want a tiny bit more humor, a little bit more levity in the show. It wasn't dark. But Harvey was a little darker. Mike was a little darker, the main characters. Mm-hmm. And at the time it was written, the head of the law firm wasn't a woman. So he tweaked a bunch of it based on the whole team, not just mine, but the whole team's notes. He came back with the first episode, which probably was then maybe 18 months since we read the original script, and we all went, go. And that was it. And it was Gina Torres who was playing Jessica, the lead, and we just had an amazing cast. And it worked, and we loved the show. It did really, really well. We had 9 seasons of it, and of course, it has a back end. And I think it went to Amazon for a short period of time. Didn't hear much about it, and then Netflix bought it, and it was a top 10 global show. It was crazy. So I mean, the pounding on the chest, a decade later was laugh out loud funny.
So, and Gabriel mocked. How'd you find him? I mean, what a great role for him.
Everybody on the show were really interesting, good characters, good people. Gabriel playing Harvey, in a sense, he was Harvey. There's something about Gabriel's presence and his tude. A little arrogant, very smart, gracious, good guy. Patrick Adams, who plays Mike, one of the nicest guys ever. Gina Torres is still a friend who played Jessica. There was an amazing crew. Hoffman, who plays Louis Litt, he was fabulous. Right. So it was a chemistry that doesn't always happen. You can have a good cast that can work together pretty well. The chemistry on that set was unbelievable. It just clicked.
In your book, you talk about one that didn't work, that you had really high hopes for, Political Animals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was one where we didn't test, we did nothing, because everything about it we thought would work. Sigourney Weaver as the lead of the show with Ellen Burstyn. How could that not work? They were big stars, and we're not used to having stars on cable. It was about, in a sense, Hillary Clinton, and it was at a time when she was bigger than life. Everything about it screamed, oh my God, this is going to work. And we put good marketing behind it. And unfortunately, this was just when Comcast had bought us. It was launched under GE, but the first show I had to give ratings to Steve Burke. And I remember when the ratings came in, we were all thinking of a 5. We thought we were going to have a 5 rating. It was a 0.5. And we could not figure out what was going on. And I remember, Ted Linhart, who's the guy who did our research, would always call me early in the morning before anything was public, because he would get whatever he was getting from his rating gurus. And he called me and he said, "You're not going to believe this." And I, "What do you mean? We do great, right?" He goes, "Sit down." And at the moment I heard it, I knew. And so I had to figure out, I had to tell Burke, because this was the first news out of this group, that was coming in. And I remember sending him an email. I said, "I just want you to hear it from me before you hear it from anybody else. This lowest ratings we've ever gotten for a launch of a show. We don't know why. We will figure this out. We are all boggled, but I don't want you to hear it from anyone else. We're screwed."
Did you pull the plug immediately? What do you do?
No. We let it. It was a limited series, so it wasn't a long-term series. It was a limited series. So we let it play out. But as we did the research, people were sick of Hillary. It was a darker show for USA, and it was before we made a conscious move to go a bit darker in terms of subject matter. Political in the title was a wrong way to go for our audience at a time when people were sick of politics. They'd be sicker now, but so many things were wrong when we looked back in hindsight. But 2 things happened. One was we learned a lot from that mistake, but it also gave Steve and Brian a window into our group that were completely transparent and honest. We didn't bullshit about a thing. We owned it from the second it happened. I greenlit it. It's my problem. Nobody else on this team. Don't blame marketing. Don't blame research. It's mine. And it's created a relationship between Steve Burke and me very early in the game that was based on pure honesty and transparency. And so the failure actually worked in my behalf. It's weird.
Bonnie, it's time for our lightning round. We have some fun questions for you, a few would you rather types. So I'll ask you just first thing that pops into your head. You ready? Okay. Mountains or the beach?
Beach.
Tequila with salt or tequila with no salt?
Tequila with orange.
Where's that coming from?
I love tequila.
Uh-huh.
It's probably one of the only things I drink. And I like it with a big ice cube and with a squeeze of a wedge of orange. And nobody in a restaurant gives you a wedge. They give you a slice, and it makes me crazy. A wedge of orange.
Okay.
They give you limes and lemons in a wedge, but not oranges.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Would you rather see a Suits Kardashian crossover or a Monk WWE crossover?
Monk WWE, no doubt.
Getting to two of your favorites. Okay. Would you rather be on a red carpet or on a set?
Set.
Okay. You don't like red carpet?
Red carpet is to show me off. Being on a set is to show others off.
Oh, okay. Would you rather boxing or yoga?
Box. I actually box. Yoga bores me to tears. I've tried it. I've tried it a half a dozen times, and it bores me. I'm standing in some position going, when is this over?
Yes.
And I never feel like I've gotten exercise.
Totally agree. All right. What perk do you miss when you're not working every day? IT.
Without doubt. IT, come back, please. Not ET, but IT.
What do you not miss?
Corporate politics.
Okay. Is there anything you've changed your mind about in the last year?
Interesting question. I think I'm changing my mind on a daily basis about what free time feels like, should feel like, will be like, and trying to figure out what I want to do with that time. And it has changed. It changes constantly. And I've given myself the entire summer and then some to figure out what I really want to do rather than what I think or I was told I'd want to do. And it's constantly changing.
All right. The last question, 2 parts. What is the best investment you've ever made and the worst investment with a broad definition of investment?
Okay. 3 very quick investments come in mind. First, knowing how bad an investor I would be on my own is finding a really good investment group to work on my investments. We would be as poor as can be if I pissed the money away myself.
Okay.
That's one.
That's huge.
Other investment is hiring great people to work with and for me. They're the reason I'm sitting here talking to you. It's not me. It's because they help make me who I am. And 3, investing in my body. My entire life, I've always tried to take care of my body by working out, just keeping the body in shape because I'm not big on surgeries or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So taking care of the body.
Okay. An excellent answer. And the worst investment?
This will resonate because we've talked about it before. The ridiculous amount of money I have spent on designer high heels, stilettos that I have worn once and are sitting in my closet and will never wear again.
Until they're wedges.
Until they're wedges, or they're given to my kids, or they're given away to somebody. I will never put them on my feet again.
Bonnie, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a lot of fun.
15 Lies Women Are Told at Work and the Truth We Need to Succeed is available anywhere you buy books. Wishing you a week filled with big hits. We'll have another great conversation for you soon. Until then, onward.